So recently in our campaign, we saved an artificer or some such, and as a reward, he offered to give us one uncommon magic item of our choosing. Now the DM allowed us to take the next week out of game. That led me to the internet to see if anyone had come up with a top 10 list based on rarity. Over at Nerd Immersion, he made some fantastic lists based on class. Magic items appropriate for, say, barbarians or rogues. But there was not really a very good list that I could find, at least, that was based on item rarity. So I thought to myself, why not come up with a top 10 list of your own? Post it on the internet so people can get really angry with you. This is that list. The items that I'm choosing from come from the Dungeon Master's Guide, because frankly, I don't have any of the other books, and I figured this would be the most widely accepted list that way. And of course, I should mention that because this is on the internet, it's been vetted by experts in the field and thus should be taken as gospel. Number 10 on this list might be the most controversial, not because of what it is, but because of where it is. A lot of people could argue this is number 1. We'll see in the comments. At number 10, the Bag of Holding. Pretty much throws out all of the rules based on carrying capacity, both in volume and weight, out the window. No matter what type of game you're playing, Bag of Holding is going to be very important. I've played in several campaigns where the DM will give a Bag of Holding on day 1 because they find that it's more fun for the players to not have to worry about how much weight they're carrying or what the size of these items are and how they're going to transport them from A to B. So Bag of Holding makes the list at number 10. At number 9 we have 2 items actually, and depending on how much gold you have will pretty much dictate which one you will choose. First, the Boots of Elvenkind. They allow you advantage on your stealth checks. The reason that this shares the list with something else is because there's a very similar item called the Cloak of Elvenkind. It does require attunement, but has more power to it. The point is, these items make you stealthy, and stealth pretty much comes up in every campaign I've ever played. Number 8 is the Immovable Rod. The Immovable Rod is just as the name says. You click a button and it fixes itself in a spot in the 3-dimensional world. There are incredibly creative ways to use it. Let's just say it can be situation breaking, not necessarily game breaking, but definitely situation breaking. So that is why it's on this list. Next is another set of 2 items. The Periapt of Wound Closure. It is used for when a player goes unconscious. Now, instead of dying, they are immediately stabilized. In addition, whenever you roll a hit die to regain hit points, double the number of hit points it restores. So a very useful item. Now, the next one is a very similar, but the Periapt of Health. It does not require attunement. You are immune to contracting any disease while you wear this pendant. If you're already inflicted with a disease, the effects of this disease are suppressed while you wear the pendant. So pretty much just hand it to every player in the party, whoever gets disease of any kind. Pretty great depending on the situation, and that's why it shares that slot with the Periapt of Wound Closure. At number 6 is the Weapon of Warning. The weapon magically awakens you and your companions within range if any of you are sleeping naturally when combat begins. So really, you don't have to figure out, all right, who's getting first watch? Who's getting second watch? Is there an elf in the group? Well, Weapon of Warning solves that problem completely for you. Yet another tandem. This shares the same spot as Weapon of Warning. It is the Sentinel Shield. This does not require attunement. While holding the shield, you have advantage on initiative rolls, as did the Weapon of Warning, and wisdom perception checks. The shield is emblazoned with the symbol of an eye, super important. I'd actually prefer this because it frees up a attunement slot, but they're very similar. Here's a quick note about all of these items. There are no really set rules on the cost of magic items in 5th edition, so the range could vary greatly depending on the DM. And you'll also find out that I have a couple items in the same slot because they are very similar items, but slightly more powerful or less powerful, and the cost of those will flesh out in the campaign. So just be aware, some of these might be extremely expensive. At number 5, we have the Sending Stones, which can be pretty game-breaking, depends on the campaign and the story that's going on. It's essentially a walkie-talkie that can travel at any distance. At number 4, we have a pair of items once again, just depends on who's getting them. First is the Headband of Intellect. It increases one character's intelligence score to 19. The Headband of Intellect shares its spot with the Gauntlets of Ogre power. Now, very similar item, just instead of intelligence, it's strength. So you'd give it to your barbarian or fighter or whoever needs it. The point is, they're pretty much the same thing, going to increase potency of one of your characters. At number 3, we have another pair of items. First, the Winged Boots. Acquires attunement, allows you to fly. Broom flying, same thing, does not require attunement, but doesn't have any kind of time limit on it. The ability to fly is pretty incredible. Getting across a chasm, reaching an item that you otherwise wouldn't be able to reach, fighting against creatures who also have flight. It's very handy. Grab one if you can get one. At number 2, we have Hat of Disguise. Allows you to disguise self at will. The ability to change your appearance is quite frankly invaluable. You have a dungeon crawl, it can still be useful, but probably not quite as useful as a plot-driven campaign. Now I wanted to go over a couple things that got honorable mention. The Slippers of Spider Climbing. This one was going to be on the list until I figured, you know, the Winged Boots and the Broom of Flying kind of already do what these do. That kind of made this particular item pointless. The other option that made honorable mention is the Pearl of Power. If your party has a Warlock, get it. Finally, number 1, the Helm of Telepathy. This is like having 3 items in one. It allows you to cast Detect Thoughts at will for anyone. You don't have to be a caster to cast this. The save DC is a little low, but the point is you can detect thoughts all day, every day, to as many people as you want. Ability 2. As long as you maintain concentration on the spell, you also get essentially the ability to use the message spell. Ability 3 allows you to cast Suggestion once per day. This item is ridiculously powerful. Let's just say, for example, one of your party members goes unconscious. Wouldn't it be nice to know if the enemy considers that threat neutralized and will then attack other people, or alternatively, they want to kill the creature that they made unconscious? It would be nice to know that information. Other things that can come up in combat include knowing if the enemy is stalling until their backup shows up. There's just so many uses for Detect Thoughts that are not specific to story or plot or roleplay in general. So at number 1, Helm of Telepathy. Get it.